Emily stopped in the hallway without realizing she had stopped. It was the kind of pause her body had learned over the years. The place where she stood when decisions weren't meant for her. The living room glowed with late afternoon light. Her parents' voices drifted from inside, low and calm. Her father wasn't angry. He wasn't whispering. He was certain. He said they had given the gift to the wrong daughter on purpose, not as a mistake, as a decision. Emily held the small box in her hands. A simple ribbon. A neat card with her sister's name written in her mother's careful handwriting. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was a choice. For years, they had told Emily she imagined the difference, that both daughters were treated the same, that she was too sensitive, too quiet, too quick to see rejection where none existed. The hallway became the place where that story finally broke. Emily didn't walk into the room. She didn't confront them. She stood still, feeling the cold floor through her socks, trying to remember when the difference had first been decided. There was a silence she had learned to live inside, a silence that had trained her to step back without being asked. In her room, Emily closed the door softly, as if noise itself might betray her. She set the box on her bed and studied the card again. Her sister's name was written with care, the kind of care Emily couldn't remember receiving. When she loosened the ribbon, the paper made a dry sound. Inside, the gift looked new, but it wasn't untouched. At the bottom of the box, taped to the lining, was an old receipt. The date was months earlier. This gift had been bought long ago, for someone else. The hallway hadn't been an accident. It had been the moment she finally saw the pattern. Emily opened an old storage box in her closet. Inside were family photos from years ago. Birthdays, holidays, small celebrations. In many of them, her sister stood in the same hallway, smiling with gifts in her arms. Emily appeared in the background, out of focus, half cut by the frame, often standing where she had stood just minutes earlier. It wasn't proof. It wasn't a confession, but patterns don't need to speak to be heard. She turned over one photo and froze. The hallway was the same. The angle was the same. The silence had a shape, a place, a history. Later that evening, Emily found an old video on a forgotten flash drive in the living room drawer. It was from a birthday years ago. In the background, her father spoke when he thought the camera wasn't recording. "She doesn't need as much as her sister." He said it casually, like a rule. For a moment, Emily almost felt relief, as if a reason could soften the weight of the years. Maybe they believed they were being fair. Maybe they thought they were protecting someone weaker. That thought lasted only a few minutes, because a reason does not undo a wound, and understanding does not erase harm. That night, Emily found a letter in an old drawer, written by her mother, never sent. The words trailed off halfway through a sentence, an unfinished attempt to explain why some choices had been made when the girls were still children. There was no full apology, just justification that stopped short of courage. Emily held the paper like a conversation that had never been allowed to happen. If the explanation had felt weak even to the person who wrote it, then maybe it was never meant to be spoken aloud. The next day at dinner, her father asked her sister's opinion before making a small decision about the house. Emily was sitting right there. He didn't notice the pattern repeating itself. Her sister answered naturally, as if this was how families worked. This wasn't just the past, it was still happening. The hallway had simply made it visible. When Emily finally placed the receipt, the photo, and the letter on the table, the room went quiet. Her mother reached for the paper, then stopped. Her father exhaled slowly. "It made sense at the time," he said. For a moment, Emily felt the temptation to accept that as enough, to let the story end there. But something in her chest tightened, because if that was the explanation, then the silence had been intentional. Her mother stood and returned with another letter, one that had never been finished. It said they had believed Emily was stronger, that she would handle less attention, that she wouldn't break. There was no cruelty in the words, only a quiet, dangerous assumption. They hadn't chosen her sister because Emily was less worthy. They had chosen her sister because they believed Emily could survive being chosen less. That belief had shaped years, opportunities, affection, absences. Emily felt the truth settle into place, not like relief, but like clarity. She placed the letter inside the box that had never truly been hers, not as forgiveness, not as closure, just as a boundary. Nothing was fixed that night. No one was redeemed. No family was healed in a single conversation. But the silence that had followed Emily for years finally had a name. And the story she had been told about herself, that she imagined the distance, that she was too sensitive, that she was asking for too much, no longer had authority.